start by relating to you, audience, the temporal chronology exhibition, which I curated based on my own archives and the archives of the Puerto Rican Workshop, also known as the Taller Boricua. My name is Marcos Dimas, and I am the co-founder and executive director of the Puerto Rican Workshop. We're going to start the talk. I'm going to focus on this area here, which is the pre-Taller Boricua phase. This is where we all got together. I was attending the School of Visual Arts, and I met a fellow artist named Adrian Garcia, who introduced me to Martin Rubio and to his friend Armando Soto. And we were the original founders of the Taller Boricua. And in this photo here, we have a pre-exhibition meeting with Rafael Ortiz Montañez, Martin Rubio, Tony Bechara, Ben Fernandez, the photographer, Philip Tante, photographer, Miguel Angel Guzman, artist, and this was a pre-Taller Boricua, pre-Museo del Barrio, and pre-Enfoco. These people, this is before. One of the activities that we had there was an exhibition at the Brooklyn Museum of Contemporary Puerto Rican Artists, which also participated myself, Martin Rubio, Tony Bechara, Armando Soto, Adrian Garcia. We were also participating in the Friends of Puerto Rico, Galería Hoy, Museo de Fiesta de Arte Puertorriqueño at the Friends of Puerto Rico. The Friends of Puerto Rico was an organization, cultural organization, headed by Amalia Guerrero on 3rd Avenue and 30th Street. At the time I was going to School of Visual Arts on 23rd Street, so it made it easy for me to walk over to 30th Street. I had a small studio there. Amalia Guerrero would give studios in turn for, give artists space in turn for working at the center, doing silk screen teaching or different things, or just cleaning. Anyway, so the Friends of Puerto Rico was one of the first organizations that I was involved with. I was also involved with the Art Workers Coalition. So was Rafael Ortiz Montañez, Martin Rubio, Armando Soto, Adrian Garcia, and myself. We all became part of the Art Workers Coalition. At that time, we were all going to School of Visual Arts, like I mentioned before. Well, we joined the Art Workers Coalition and participated in few demonstrations against the Museum of Modern Art, the Metropolitan Museum of Art. We demonstrated against the Metropolitan Museum in solidarity with the Afro-American painters, artists, who were picketing the museum based on the exhibition Harlem on My Mind, which excluded most of the contemporary African-American artists. Another protest that I participated in was against the Museum of Modern Art, when they had an exhibition of the Surrealists. And we, as the art workers, felt that they were co-opting an anti-war movement, commercializing an anti-war movement, which the Surrealist movement in Europe actually started after the First World War, when they saw people coming back without arms and limbs and the whole devastation of war. and the surrealist movement was basically an anti-war movement. So we felt that the Museum of Modern Art was co-opting it, and and we picketed against it. Later on, we picketed as the art workers. This is called the United States Art World, the blood dollar, one blood dollar, and that was as art workers we would give those out at rallies and all that. And what's interesting about this one blood dollar, which is which made parody of Nelson Rockefeller, who was the governor of the time, is that it says here, not valid for black, Puerto Rican, or female artists, which was way back in 1968, 69. We were looking at the fact that there was no representation of black, Puerto Rican, or female art in most of these, or there was very little representation in most of these institutions. Later on, as there was a massacre in Kent State University, and the art workers decided to have a day without art, and we set out to picket and close down the museums, right, in solidarity. We were a faction of Puerto Ricans. There was a faction of black artists in the organization. And the Puerto Rican faction, we decided, hey, let's go into East Harlem and picket the Museum of the City of New York, which is right in East Harlem. It's in our neighborhood. And they need to react to us, okay? So we did. We came into East Harlem and picketed the Museum of the City of New York. With all these pickets, we were able to get a lot of things. We got a lot of things done. As the art workers, we were able to get the State Council of the Arts to develop a department to fund community centers. At that time, the State Council of the Arts was funding basically like the Lincoln Center, the Metropolitan Museum, these big institutions, Brooklyn Museum, etc. So that was one thing. They developed a department that started to look at community centers like ours. The Puerto Rican Workshop, when they incorporated, we had some of our first funding from that department. Another thing that happened was we were able to get a free day or free time at the museums for the regular people, for our people who came from the lower and middle class and didn't have a lot of money to go to the museums. And anyway, so that was pre-Taller Boricua. In relation to all these demonstrations, all that, we decided to do our own thing and create our own organization. We created our own organization, and we moved into 1673 Madison Avenue, which was across the street from the Young Lords, and we were able to right away we set up a printmaking workshop to start doing prints in support of the cause and to promote Puerto Rican history and culture and use that as a vehicle for education. So these were created. This was created. This is one of my silk screens on Pedro Albizu Campos. From 1673, we moved to 2156 2nd Avenue. This is a print by Armando Soto for the Taller Boricua. And one of the first exhibitions at 1673 Madison Avenue, which was the first location, featured Armando Soto, Adrian Garcia, Marcos Ramirez. At that time, I was using Ramirez. Nitza Brakeman, who is actually Nitza Tufino, Rafael Tufino, and Carlos Osorio. So this exhibition was one of our first exhibitions. This group of photos taken by Hiram Maristani was some of the activities at the Second Avenue location. The Second Avenue location featured Sammy Tanco, who's a plenero, and he was a music person, Joe Falcon, Jojo Rodriguez, Adrian Garcia, myself on congas, and Palilo on cowbell, and Sammy Tanco singing. Taller Boricua location here, Taller Boricua location on Second Avenue. Some of our activities included Pedro Pietri here, poetry, Brenda Feliciano, soprano singer, Julio Rodriguez, and there's Carlos Osorio there, you know. And then that was Taller Galería Boricua invita a exposición de Carlos Osorio on 2156 Second Avenue. And that was 1971. We started 1969, basically, and by 1971, we were already in our second location. In our third location, at Madison Avenue, by that time, Jorge Soto had come into the picture. Armando Soto and Martin Rubio left to go do work, community artwork in the Lower East Side, and Adrian Garcia and ¿cómo se llama él? Manuel Otero and Sammy Tanco and Nitza Tufino left to go re-establish the Museo del Barrio. By that time, the original founder, Rafael Ortiz, was no longer there, and they were looking for a new director, and Marta Moreno was chosen as the new director. Marta Moreno at that time comes into East Harlem to the Taller Boricua to ask for help. So we said, all right, well, you know, we could do it. And Nitza, Adrian, Neko, and Sammy leave the Taller Boricua and go to establish the workshops and the curriculums at the Museo del Barrio. Okay? That time, about that time, we moved to a loft on Second Avenue with Jorge Soto, Martin Perez, myself. Carlos didn't go. He stayed. He created his own workshop, and then eventually Fernando Sally Cruz joins the group back in about 1973. So Tito Perez, Martin Perez here, he was a photographer, he was a painter, he was a musician. The story goes that they were in an exhibition downtown in the Puerto Rican the Cayman Gallery. The Cayman Gallery, which evolved from the Friends of Puerto Rico, was having an exhibition. They were coming back, and they were in the train, and that time, and they were getting loud in the train and playing and music and whatnot. So then the cops came in. At that time, the cop force in the trench was very substantial. And anyway, long story short, Tito winds up dead in the 23rd precinct. So the community felt it was another case of police brutality, and there was a massive demonstration where we supported where uh, we instituted uh, a force to start investigating. And, and this is some of the things that were happening there. This is a poem by Papoleto, and it was letters sent out to the political representatives. There was a function, musical function to raise money for the defense with Joe Falcone and his group. There was posters made, homicidio, no suicidio, because they were claiming that Tito had committed suicide. And we were saying, no, there's no way Tito was going to be committing suicide. And it's another long story, and I could talk about that in depth more, but I just want to run through this exhibition. We had a bembe at one of the churches in name for Tito, and a lot of the musicians like Jerry Gonzalez, Milton Cardona, and Tito Cepeda, and a whole bunch of other musicians did some performances there in honor of his soul. And his mother and his wife. So there was a lot of things happening. But and this is one of Tito's paintings. This is a representation of one of Tito's paintings. What happened was, during that time, we were doing a lot of work like this. The first festival of Third World Arts at the International House. And we were still doing a lot of community work, a lot of educational work. We were doing a lot of silk screening, a lot of posters, a lot of traveling exhibitions. We had traveling exhibitions throughout the 5 boroughs in different communities, Puerto Rican communities, where we would take an exhibition, set up an exhibition, and put paintings, graphics, and whatever on the walls, and we would have kids come by, and we would talk to the neighborhood about the history, because Puerto Rican history was not even covered in Puerto Rico. So a lot of the Puerto Ricans were colonized. They had a colonized mentality where they didn't know the basic identity. So that's one of our main focus, was to create through our art to make fruition to become a serious educational component. So anyway, and we kept up our exhibitions. What came out of this the tragic of Tito being killed, is that we created a gallery in his name, Galeria Tito. Galeria Tito became an extension of the Taller Boricua, and we were at that time in Madison Avenue, and we created this gallery at 1699 Lexington Avenue between 106 and 107. And we had exhibitions there. This exhibition here was for Minda Rodriguez. We had Jorge Soto did an exhibition, and this is a artwork by Jorge Soto announcing the Galleria and poetry reading at the Galleria Tito, homage to Tito. It was homage to Tito, and what happened was the gallery became self-sufficient, and it incorporated other artists. And then Bobby Ortiz Melendez came into the scene, Jimmy Jimenez, some others with, Jacqueline Biaggi was part of that. And Aleda Bass was part of that. There was a few other people. So anyway, it became bigger than it originated, and they decided that they needed to expand the functions and the space, and they got another space, and then they evolved from the Galleria Tito into the Galleria Morivivi. And the Galleria Morivivi, collective cultural experience, included people like April Bacon, Luis El More, Jimmy Jimenez, Vitín Linares, Bobby Ortiz Melendez, and Carlos Osorio, who was originally with Taller, became part of that. Midnight Renaud, Leo Rivera, Elaine Rosner, Nancy Wells, and Chance Jackness. So that group became an extension of the Taller Boricua, and they had exhibitions like the exhibition for Elisan Escobar, and they had the exhibition for Rafael Colón Morales. Jorge Soto had an exhibition. I exhibited with the group. We were always in collaboration between the old members and the new members. So basically, it grew culturally. It expanded. We moved from Madison Avenue over to the Heckscher building, which is where now the Museo del Barrio is. And this was a poster that Adrian Garcia did for one of the young lords who was killed, Julio Roldán, a young lord asesinado por los puercos de las tumbas. He was in the tombs downtown, and he was killed. Another killing. So the Young Lords political party, which was across from us, the Unidad Latina published one of my prints in one of their newspapers. The Young Lords also reprinted that print in a newspaper. This is an exhibition for Soto Ala when we were on Madison Avenue, with a handwritten poem by Sandy Esteves. Sandy Esteves was also a member of the Taller Boricua, and along with Esperanza Martel and Wanda Quiñones, and so that was the second part. This is a poetry by Pedro Pietri. An announced article in the Village Voice about the Taller Boricua. Everything was great, even when it was sunny. That was my quote when he asked me, "What did you think about New York when you first came over from Puerto Rico?" So that's what Taller Boricua moves to 1538 Madison Avenue at 104th Street. That's where the Museo del Barrio is. This wall over here depicts one of the seminal activities and functions that were created during the move from the Museo del Barrio from 3rd Avenue between 106 and 107 to Fifth Avenue, where the Heckscher building is, and 104th Street. We asked Jacob Widows, who was the director at the time, to join us. By that time, we were already at the Heckscher building. The story about the Heckscher building is that they were, the Boys Harbor wanted to take over this building. The building was in the community and they were not part of the community. So they had to get community help to officiate taking over a building in this community. So they came to Taller Boricua and they asked us to join them, and together we went to the community planning board and put in our request for the building to become a cultural entity in the neighborhood. And so that's how Boys Harbor came into this community. And we were there for about 12 years, and then we moved out. But so before the Museo moved out, they gave the artists a space to do installation, and the installation, which most of us participated in, happened at that time. And in this picture, we see Nestor Otero, we see Jorge Soto, Jacqueline Biaggi, Wanda Quiñones on top, Ruben Gastambide, and these two other people, I forgot their names right now, and this is Morales, Felipe Morales, at the end. These are newspaper clippings. Here we're getting a proclamation by Andrew Stein, some of the activities, openings in El Diario, the Association of Hispanic Arts, Americo Casiano wrote an article on us. This is from this is a spread from the Alternative Histories book, which covers organizations that have been alternative arts organizations. And this is a group portrait of Taller members during that time, including Gloria Rodriguez, Papo Colo, myself, Jorge Soto, Fernando Santa Cruz's brother, Rafi, Manny Vegas, and Jose Rodriguez in this picture. These are some of the projects, the early workshops. We had a mural painting workshop with the kids, with young teenagers, and various exhibitions. Jorge Soto and Nestor Otero went over to the Association of Hispanic Arts, and they created a art page, a middle art page, which they do a series of collages with stories and poetry. And these are two examples of that. And this is an example of an early protest print. This is the Segundo Festival de Protesta, Música, Poesía y Arte, and that was at Hunter College in 1973. And that's the end of this first gallery of the temporal chronology exhibition. Technology, March 20, 2022, take one. Marcos Dimas and Elsie Delis. Today I'm going to start my talk by relating to you, audience, the temporal chronology exhibition, which I curated based on my own archives and the archives of the Puerto Rican Workshop, also known as the Taller Boricua. My name is Marcos Dimas, and I am the co-founder and executive director of the Puerto Rican Workshop. You could come in now, come in. We're going to start the talk. I'm going to focus on this area here, which is the pre-Taller Boricua phase. This is where we all got together. I was attending the School of Visual Arts and I met a fellow artist named Adrian Garcia who introduced me to Martin Rubio and to his friend Armando Soto. And we were the original founders of the Taller Boricua. And in this photo here, we have a pre-exhibition meeting with Rafael Ortiz Montañez, Martin Rubio, Tony Bechara, Ben Fernandez, the photographer, Philip Tante, photographer, Miguel Angel Guzman, artist, and this was a pre-Taller Boricua, pre-Museo del Barrio, and pre-Enfoco. These people, this is before. One of the activities that we had there was an exhibition at the Brooklyn Museum of Contemporary Puerto Rican Artists, which also participated myself, Martin Rubio, Tony Bechara, Armando Soto, Adrian Garcia. We were also participating in the Friends of Puerto Rico, Galería Hoy, Museo de Fiesta de Arte Puertorriqueño at the Friends of Puerto Rico. The Friends of Puerto Rico was an organization, cultural organization, headed by Amalia Guerrero on 3rd Avenue and 30th Street. At the time I was going to School of Visual Arts on 23rd Street, so it made it easy for me to walk over to 30th Street. I had a small studio there. Amalia Guerrero would give studios in turn for, give artists space in turn for working at the center, doing silk screen teaching or different things, or just cleaning. Anyway, so the Friends of Puerto Rico was one of the first organizations that I was involved with. I was also involved with the Art Workers Coalition. So was Rafael Ortiz Montañez, Martin Rubio, Armando Soto, Adrian Garcia, and myself. We all became part of the Art Workers Coalition. At that time, we were all going to School of Visual Arts, like I mentioned before. Well, we joined the Art Workers Coalition and participated in few demonstrations against the Museum of Modern Art, the Metropolitan Museum of Art. We demonstrated against the Metropolitan Museum in solidarity with the Afro-American painters, artists, who were picketing the museum based on the exhibition Harlem on My Mind, which excluded most of the contemporary African-American artists. Another protest that I participated in was against the Museum of Modern Art, when they had an exhibition of the Surrealists. And we, as the art workers, felt that they were co-opting an anti-war movement, commercializing an anti-war movement, which the surrealist movement in Europe actually started after the First World War, when they saw people coming back without arms and limbs and the whole devastation of war. And the surrealist movement was basically an anti-war movement. So we felt that the Museum of Modern Art was co-opting it, and we picketed against it. Later on, we picketed as the art workers. This is called the United States Art World, the blood dollar, $1 blood dollar, and that was, as art workers, we would give those out at rallies and all that. And what's interesting about this $1 blood dollar, which made parody of Nelson Rockefeller, who was the governor of the time, is that it says here, not valid for black, Puerto Rican, or female artists, which was way back in 1968, 69. We were looking at the fact that there was no representation of black, Puerto Rican, or female art in most of these, or there was very little representation in most of these institutions. Later on, as there was a massacre in Kent State University, and the art workers decided to have a day without art, and we set out to picket and close down the museums, right, in solidarity. We were a faction of Puerto Ricans. There was a faction of black artists in the organization. And the Puerto Rican faction, we decided, hey, let's go into East Harlem and picket the Museum of the City of New York, which is right in East Harlem. It's in our neighborhood, and they need to react to us. Okay, so we did. We came into East Harlem and picketed the Museum of the City of New York. With all these pickets, we were able to get a lot of things. We got a lot of things done. As the art workers, we were able to get the State Council of the Arts to develop a department to fund community centers. At that time, the State Council of the Arts was funding basically like the Lincoln Center, the Metropolitan Museum, these big institutions, Brooklyn Museum, etc. So that was one thing. They developed a department that started to look at community centers like ours. The Puerto Rican Workshop, when they incorporated, we had some of our first funding from that department. Another thing that happened was we were able to get a free day or free time at the museums for the regular people, for our people who came from the lower and middle class and didn't have a lot of money to go to the museums. And anyway, so that was pre-Taller Boricua. In relation to all these demonstrations, all that, we decided to do our own thing and create our own organization. We created our own organization, and we moved into 1673 Madison Avenue, which was across the street from the Young Lords, and we were able to right away we set up a printmaking workshop to start doing prints in support of the cause and to promote Puerto Rican history and culture and use that as a vehicle for education. So these were created. This was created. This is one of my silk screens on Pedro Albizu Campos From 1673, we moved to 2156 2nd Avenue. This is a print by Armando Soto for the Taller Boricua. And one of the first exhibitions at 1673 Madison Avenue, which was the first location, featured Armando Soto, Adrian Garcia, Marcos Ramirez. At that time I was using Ramirez, Nitza Braitman, who is actually Nitza Tufino, Rafael Tufino, and Carlos Osorio. So this exhibition was one of our first exhibitions. This group of photos taken by Hiram Maristani was some of the activities at the 2nd Avenue location. The 2nd Avenue location featured Sammy Tanco, who's a plenero and he was a music person, Joe Falcon, Jojo Rodriguez, Adrian Garcia, myself on congas, and Palilo on cowbell, and Sammy Tanco singing. Taller Boricua location here, Taller Boricua location on 2nd Avenue. Some of our activities included Pedro Pietri, here, poetry, Brenda Feliciano, soprano singer, Julio Rodriguez, and there's Carlos Osorio there, you know. And then that was Taller Galería Boricua, invita a exposición de Carlos Osorio on 2156 2nd Avenue. And that was 1971. We started 1969, basically, and by 1971, we were already in our 2nd location. In our 3rd location, at Madison Avenue, by that time, Jorge Soto had come into the picture. Armando Soto and Martin Rubio left to go do work, community artwork in the Lower East Side, and Adrian Garcia and ¿cómo se llama él? Manuel Otero and Sammy Tanco and Nitza Tufino left to go re-establish the Museo del Barrio. By that time, the original founder, Rafael Ortiz, was no longer there, and they were looking for a new director, and Marta Moreno was chosen as the new director. Marta Moreno at that time comes into East Harlem to the Taller Boricua to ask for help. So we said, all right, well, you know, we could do it. And Nitza, Adrian, Neko, and Sammy leave the Taller Boricua and go to establish the workshops and the curriculums at the Museo del Barrio. Okay? That time, about that time, we moved to a loft on 2nd Avenue with Jorge Soto, Martin Perez, myself. Carlos didn't go. He stayed. He created his own workshop, and then eventually Fernando Sally Cruz joins the group back in about 1973. Tito Perez, Martin Perez here, he was a photographer, he was a painter, he was a musician. The story goes that they were in an exhibition downtown in the Puerto Rican the 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 Cayman Gallery. The Cayman Gallery, which evolved from the Friends of Puerto Rico, was having an exhibition. They were coming back, and they were in the train, and that time, and they were getting loud in the train and playing and music and whatnot. So then the cops came in. At that time, the cop force in the trains was very substantial. And anyway, long story short, Tito winds up dead in the 23rd precinct. So the community felt it was another case of police brutality, and there was a massive demonstration where we supported where we instituted a force to start investigating. And this is some of the things that were happening there. This is a poem by Papoleto, and it was letters sent out to the political representatives. There was a function, musical function to raise money for the defense with Joe Falcone and his group. There was posters made, homicidio, no suicidio, because they were claiming that Tito had committed suicide. And we were saying, no, there's no way Tito was going to be committing suicide. And it's another long story, and I could talk about that in depth more, but I just want to run through this exhibition. We had a bembe at one of the churches in name for Tito, and a lot of the musicians like Jerry Gonzalez, Milton Cardona, and Tito Cepeda, and a whole bunch of other musicians did some performances there in honor of his soul. And his mother and his wife. So there was a lot of things happening. But and this is one of Tito's paintings. This is a representation of one of Tito's paintings. What happened was, during that time we were doing a lot of work like this. The first festival of Third World Arts at the International House. And we were still doing a lot of community work, a lot of educational work. We were doing a lot of silk screening, a lot of posters, a lot of traveling exhibitions. We had traveling exhibitions throughout the 5 boroughs in different communities, Puerto Rican communities, where we would take an exhibition, set up an exhibition, and put paintings, graphics, and whatever on the walls, and we would have kids come by, and we would talk to the neighborhood about the history, because Puerto Rican history was not even covered in Puerto Rico. So a lot of the Puerto Ricans were colonized. They had a colonized mentality where they didn't know the basic identity. So that's one of our main focus, was to create through our art to make fruition to become a serious educational component. So anyway, and we kept up our exhibitions. What came out of this the tragic of Tito being killed, is that we created a gallery in his name, Galeria Tito. Galeria Tito became an extension of the Taller Boricua, and we were at that time in Madison Avenue, and we created this gallery at 1699 Lexington Avenue between 106 and 107. And we had exhibitions there. This exhibition here was for Mirna Rodriguez. We had Jorge Soto did an exhibition, and this is a artwork by Jorge Soto announcing the Galleria and poetry reading at the Galleria Tito. Homage to Tito. It was homage to Tito, and what happened was the gallery became self-sufficient, and it incorporated other artists. And then Bobby Ortiz Melendez came into the scene, Jimmy Jimenez, some others were, Jacqueline Biaggi was part of that. And Aleda Bass was part of that. There was a few other people. So anyway, it became bigger than it originated, and they decided that they needed to expand the functions and the space, and they got another space, and then they evolved from the Galleria Tito into the Galleria Morivivi. And the Galleria Morivivi, collective cultural experience, included people like April Bacon, Luis El More, Jimmy Jimenez, Vitín Linares, Bobby Ortiz Melendez, and Carlos Osorio, who was originally with Taller, became part of that. Midnight Renaud, Leo Rivera, Elaine Rosner, Nancy Wells, and Chance Jack Ness. So that group became an extension of the Taller Boricua, and they had exhibitions like the exhibition for Elisan Escobar, and they had the exhibition for Rafael Colón Morales. Jorge Soto had an exhibition. I exhibited with the group. We were always in collaboration between the old members and the new members. So basically, it grew culturally. It expanded. We moved from Madison Avenue over to the Heckscher building, which is where now the Museo del Barrio is. And this was a poster that Adrian Garcia did for one of the young lords who was killed, Julio Roldán, a young lord asesinado por los puercos de las tumbas. He was in the tombs downtown, and he was killed. Another killing. So the Young Lords political party, which was across from us, the Unidad Latina published one of my prints in one of their newspapers. The Young Lords also reprinted that print in a newspaper. This is an exhibition for Soto Ala when we were on Madison Avenue, with a handwritten poem by Sandy Esteves. Sandy Esteves was also a member of the Taller Boricua, and along with Esperanza Martel and Wanda Quiñones, and so that was the second part. This is a poetry by Pedro Pietri. An announced article in the Village Voice about the Taller Boricua. Everything was great, even when it was sunny. That was my quote when he asked me, "What did you think about New York when you first came over from Puerto Rico?" So that's what Taller Boricua moves to 1538 Madison Avenue at 104th Street. That's where the Museo del Barrio is. This wall over here depicts one of the seminal activities and functions that were created during the move from the Museo of the Museo del Barrio from 3rd Avenue between 106 and 107 to 5th Avenue, where the Heckscher building is, and 104th Street. We asked Jacob Widows, who was the director at the time, to join us. By that time, we were already at the Heckscher building. The story about the Heckscher building is that they were, the Boys Harbor wanted to take over this building. The building was in the community and they were not part of the community. So they had to get community help to officiate taking over a building in this community. So they came to Taller Boricua and they asked us to join them, and together we went to the community planning board and put in our request for the building to become a cultural entity in the neighborhood. And so that's how Boys Harbor came into this community. And we were there for about 12 years, and then we moved out. But so before the museo moved out, they gave the artists a space to do installation, and the installation, which most of us participated in, happened at that time. And in this picture we see Nestor Otero, we see Jorge Soto, Jacqueline Biaggi, Wanda Quiñones on top, Ruben Gastambide, and these two other people, I forgot their names right now, and this is Morales, Felipe Morales at the end. These are newspaper clippings. Here we're getting a proclamation by Andrew Stein, some of the activities, openings in El Diario, the Association of Hispanic Arts, Americo Casiano wrote an article on us. This is from this is a spread from the Alternative Histories book, which covers organizations that have been alternative arts organizations. And this is a group portrait of Taller members during that time, including Gloria Rodriguez, Papo Colo, myself, Jorge Soto, Fernando Santa Cruz brother, Ralphie, Manny Vegas, and Jose Rodriguez in this picture. These are some of the projects, the early workshops. We had a mural painting workshop with the kid, with young teenagers, and various exhibitions. Jorge Soto and Nestor Otero went over to the Association of Hispanic Arts, and they created a art page, a middle art page, which they do a series of collages with stories and poetry. And these are two examples of that. And this is an example of an early protest print. This is the Segundo Festival de Protesta, Música, Poesía y Arte, and that was at Hunter College in 1973. And that's the end of this first gallery of the temporal chronology exhibition.